to go back and look at our European partners, our Asian partners.
Hello and welcome. I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching The World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top headlines of the hour. President Donald Trump delivers a speech from the White House, highlighting his achievements and setting out parts of his agenda for the year ahead. He blames former President Joe Biden for immigration and inflation problems as polls show public frustration with the economy. European Union leaders gather in Brussels to try to agree on a major loan to fund Ukraine's military and financial needs for the next 2 years. The talks focus on how to cover most of the 137 billion euros the IMF says Ukraine needs. Ukrainian drones strike a tanker docked at the Russian port of Rostov-on-Don, killing and injuring several people, according to the city's mayor. Russian officials say the attack sparks a fire on the vessel, with emergency teams moving in to extinguish the blaze. Taiwan says the United States is moving ahead with an $11.1 billion arms package, the largest ever for the island. The deal, the second under the Trump administration, comes as China steps up military pressure on Taiwan. Israeli troops fire a mortar over the ceasefire line into a Palestinian residential area in Gaza, wounding at least 10 people, according to local officials. The Israeli military says the round veers off course during an operation near the so-called Yellow Line and says that the incident is under investigation. Meanwhile, the United Nations and 200 other aid groups warn humanitarian operations in Gaza risk collapse over what they call a vague and politicized Israeli registration process. They say dozens of groups face deregistration by the end of the year and closure within 60 days, while Israel says it is meeting aid obligations. Brazil's Senate approves a bill that would reduce the prison sentence of former President Jair Bolsonaro over an alleged coup plot, passing it 48 to 25 after lower house approval. The measure now goes to President Lula da Silva, who says he will veto it. The gunman who kills 2 Brown University students remains at large 4 days after opening fire inside a classroom in Providence, Rhode Island. Authorities say there is still no identification of the suspect, leaving the community on edge. We start now in Eastern Europe, and Russia launched a massive drone attack on Ukraine's Cherkasy region overnight, injuring 6 people and cutting power to part of the city. Local authorities say critical infrastructure was targeted and more than a dozen homes were damaged. Ukrainian forces say they shot down 63 of the 82 drones that were launched. Power outages were also reported in Mykolaiv, but later mostly restored. Meanwhile, Ukraine carried out drone strikes on Russia's southern Rostov region, killing 3 people, including 2 cargo vessel crew members. 7 people were injured also in Bataisk, where private homes caught fire. Russian authorities say oil supplies, however, were indeed avoided. Both sides accuse each other of targeting civilian vessels, with tensions rising over attacks on key ports and energy infrastructure. We're now joined by Major General Dr. Rajan Kochar. He is an international relations and defense expert, and he joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Dr. Kochar, for joining us here on NewsX World. Let's start this off. Russia targeted power and critical infrastructure in Cherkasy, while Ukraine struck the Rostov region and a cargo vessel. Are we now seeing a new normal in regards to attacks on dual-use civilian targets here?
Thank you, Thomas. This war is on both sides. Drone attacks and missile attacks have been predominant, and Russia has been penetrating quite deep into Ukraine, even up to Odessa and all those areas in Kharkiv and Sumy, apart from the Donetsk area. But now we are also seeing a retaliation from the Ukrainians and the latest attack on uh, Rostov on Don, because Rostov-on-Don is a core military, logistic, and a command hub for the Russians. It is the headquarters of Russia's southern military district, and the southern military district is responsible for operations in southern Ukraine, and especially the areas of Donetsk, Luhansk, and Zaporozhye and Kherson areas. And it also works in close coordination with Russian forces in Crimea. So if you look at the map, you will see that Rostov has a very important and a strategic location. It is right in the Sea of Azov, and it also can influence the operation into the Black Sea area. So it's an operational nerve center. Major railway lines are also feeding forces from this area, and key highways are also linking central Russia to the Donbass and the Crimea region. So I think it is extremely important, and Ukraine is sending a strong message also to the Russians that we can target your logistic areas, because by targeting the logistic areas, it is very, very clear you want to limit the uh, replenishment of forces to take place in the Donetsk area where the heavy fighting is going on. So these are important staging areas and logistic hubs from where the supplies, from where the ammunition, from where the fuel, oil, and lubricants are actually emanating, and also the railway lines are very fast as far as communications of the logistics is concerned, the supply chain is concerned. So I think this war is escalating. I would say that, because the moment if Ukraine tries to strike the Russian logistics, there is going to be a very strong response from the Russians, as we have seen in the war happening. That whenever there is a Ukrainian strike, a very strong riposte is there from Russian side. So in the next 48 hours, what
Yes.
one can expect is a strong Russian response.
Dr. Kochar, just quickly, a more broader question. Of course, we've seen hundreds of drones fly past each border, once again within the last 24 hours. Of course, drones are cheap, scalable, and hard to stop. Do you think this conflict has shown that traditional air superiority is losing its meaning in modern warfare?
A very good question. You see, today the war doctrines of the nation have actually undergone a change. India has also, today India's infantry battalions have been equipped with 300 to 400 drones. So you can see that how the concept of warfare is changing. The air power, the predominance of air power, we always thought that air power was extremely important in terms of fighter aircrafts and strikes deep into the enemy territory. But today, drones have the capability of even going 1,000 kilometers deep into enemy territory. So you are absolutely right. The paradigm of warfare has changed. There is a predominance on drones because of two important reasons. Drones are difficult to detect, are a cheaper option, and they saturate your air defense resources, because if you launch a swarm drone attack, because that is the latest technique which they are employing, that hundreds of drones will be launched at the same time, then your air defense gets saturated and you are not able to strike down all the drones. Even if 30 to 40 drones are not able to be struck down by your air defense, the damage would have been done. So this entire concept of warfare has changed, and we have seen it in the Iran-Iraq war also, and in the Pakistani skirmish we had in Operation Sindoor, and the next war with the Pakistan also, you would see a preponderance of drones and missiles.
Yes, Dr. Kochar, do stay with us as we have further updates coming out of the conflict. And the United States has extended a waiver allowing oil and LNG sales from Russia's Sakhalin-2 project through to June the 18th next year. The move ensures continued liquefied natural gas production vital for Japan, which relies on Russia for about 9% of its LNG. The waiver is part of sanctions relief first imposed by the Biden administration in 2022 after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Japan says maintaining LNG supplies is critical for its energy security and will work closely with the US and its allies. The US also extended a waiver for transactions involving Russian banks linked to civil nuclear power. Sakhalin-2 supplies with Japanese shareholders Mitsui and Mitsubishi are set to continue until 2028 to 2023. Dr. Kochar, the US is extending a waiver that allows Russian LNG sales while publicly maintaining maximum pressure on Moscow. Is this, or isn't it, a blatant admission that sanctions do in fact have hard limits?
Thomas, I think it's clearly a case of double standards because on the one hand, you impose sanctions on India for buying Russian oil 25% of the tariff, and on the other hand, you are giving a waiver to Japan because Sakhalin-2 supplies almost 9% of Japan's LNG imports, and now with the winters also coming in, the energy becomes extremely important. So I think there is a strategic contradiction into this policy of the United States because G7 countries have actually aligned with the American thought of imposing sanctions on Russia, and here we find that a dispensation has been made to Japan. So certainly I agree with your viewpoint because this is a dual diplomacy, I would say that because in diplomacy you need to have the same benchmark and the same standards for everybody, but here you are making an exception because Japan would be in dire straits in case Japan is not able to get this LNG from Russia. Almost 9% is quite a substantial amount. So I think this is a standard which one normally actually associates with Donald Trump, and so for Japan it is important, and that's why Trump has agreed to give this waiver.
Yes, Dr. Kochar, do once again stay with us as this time we move over to Southeast Asia for further updates in the ongoing Cambodia-Thailand conflict. Now, Cambodia has accused Thailand of bombing the casino hub of Poi Phet, a key border crossing between the two countries. Cambodia's defense ministry has said that Thai forces dropped two bombs on Poi Phet municipality this morning. The strike comes amid renewed clashes along the Thailand-Cambodia border. Meanwhile, Thailand says its military death toll has risen to 21, up from 19. The Royal Thai Army confirmed that 2 soldiers were killed in fighting in Sisaket and Sa Kaeo provinces on December the 17th. The border violence began once again on December the 7th. Thailand says Cambodian forces started shelling its positions the next day. The Thai Air Force responded by striking Cambodian military infrastructure. Cambodia has not released military casualty numbers, however. Thailand claims more than 200 Cambodian soldiers have been killed, and Cambodia says at least 15 civilians have died in the fighting. Dr. Kochar, of course, we're seeing this conflict escalate once again, this time without a peace deal that was announced by Donald Trump. Donald Trump did claim that fighting was meant to cessate on Friday. However, that did not happen and the conflict has continued. How much of an escalation do you expect this conflict to take? We are now heading in to the second week between Phnom Penh and Bangkok.
Thomas, I think this war is going to escalate more because you have an unresolved border demarcation between the two countries, and especially near the temple complexes, and that temple is a bone of contention between the two countries. Thailand has certainly superior ground forces than Cambodia if you compare the two armies. And recently, we had covered in your program that how the economic blockade Thailand was doing of Cambodia from the Gulf of Thailand, where these introduction of supply lines was carried out by Thailand to Cambodia. So once you start escalating, because this was an escalation from the earlier, I was expecting a strong response from Cambodia, and this response has come. So once you do these kind of activities and try to choke the supplies to a country, you are calling in for an escalation of the hostilities, and I think this is a clear escalation because Pol Pot is a major gambling and an economic center of Thailand. It caters to a large number of Thai nationals here, and it is also linked to informal economies, cross-border crimes and all these things, and political patronage network. So it's going to hurt politically, also it's going to hurt Thailand. So a kind of a strong response we can see already, as you have mentioned that Cambodia has lost a large number of their soldiers as well as the civilians. And we are not hearing any statement from the people who have brokered the deal, because it's extremely important for the United States to send an emissary straight away. He can send his Secretary of State or any senior level officer in the government to start negotiating or brokering a ceasefire. Because unless you do a ceasefire under the present circumstances, Thomas, I would be constrained to say that we are stepping into an escalatory ladder, and this war is not going to stop anymore.
Yes, Dr. Kochhar, thank you as always for joining us here on NewsX World. It's a pleasure to have you on the programme. We now move on, and China has condemned the US blockade of oil tankers in and out of Venezuela, calling it unilateral bullying and reaffirming support for Venezuela's sovereignty. The US recently intensified its pressure on Caracas, targeting its oil, which are vital to the country's economy. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has expressed solidarity with the country, though he did not specify how China would assist the nation or President Nicolas Maduro. Now, in a statement, China said it opposes all unilateral bullying. While China remains a key economic partner for Venezuela, the US aims to curb the country's involvement in terrorism and drug trafficking. President Trump has escalated the situation, signaling that Maduro's regime is nearing its end. Meanwhile, the United Nations and leaders from Mexico and Brazil have urged de-escalation and dialogue to avoid further regional tensions. Russia has also voiced support for Maduro, reinforcing Venezuela's position against external pressures. Joining us now is Dr. Satoru Nagao. He is a fellow at the Hudson Institute and he joins us live from Tokyo in Japan. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Nagao. Of course, a traditional ally of Venezuela, Beijing has finally voiced support for Caracas and the Maduro government, but only because they are saying that they are against unilateral bullying, as they call it. How much further do you think Beijing's support for Caracas will go if tensions and possibly military action does escalate?
Of course, there is a few options China can do indeed, because China expands their influence in the American continent when the country who want to resist the United States. So Venezuela is one of the typical example. But at the same time, because of the geographical distance, what China can do is very limited in this area, especially the militarily, there is no option. So when the United States shows a military pressure, in this case, what China can do is very limited. And in case of the economy, indeed, China has already secured the most of the oil came from Venezuela. The many ship has already left from Venezuela. After that, U.S. sees some ship, but these tanker have already left and going to China now. So in this case, this oil in the tanker, China already secured. And the total amount of the oil China import is from the Venezuela is only 4% of the total import of the oil of China. So that's why view from the Venezuela, China is a very important country, but view from China, Venezuela is one of the country. China want to express their support to Venezuela because of the just a political reason. Political reason is when the country who face a threat from the United States, this country are friend of China. So China, in last September, China leads many countries in the Beijing because China holds a big military parade. And so that time China want to show the image. China is leading the many countries who resist the rule of the United States. So that's why this is the image China want to show. So now China can show the same image by expressing the concern of the U.S. policy toward Venezuela, and that is favor of China. Interesting thing is unilateral bullying is the reason China criticized the U.S. action towards Venezuela. But indeed, what China did in the Indo-Pacific is unilateral bullying. So, view from the country around China, we want to say this is the word for you. That is our opinion, I think.
Yes, Dr. Satoru Nagao, thank you very much. Do stay with us as we have further updates for our viewers. We stay in Latin America, and Bolivian President Rodrigo Paz has said that his government would remove long-standing fuel subsidies in a bid to shore up public accounts. Paz has also said that this doesn't mean abandonment by the government. It means order, justice, and redistribution that's real. Clear and transparent is what he has said. However, Bolivia had frozen fuel prices in 2006, with a litre of diesel costing about $0.54 and premium gasoline at $0.34. But now diesel will cost $1.42 per litre and premium will cost $1.01 per litre. Meanwhile, Oil and Gas Minister Mauricio Minandacelli has said that prices would be fixed for 6 months, though he did not rule out further adjustments. Nvidia is reportedly reducing production of its RTX 50 series GPUs by 30 to 40% in the first half of 2026 due to a global memory shortage. This will primarily impact mid-range models like the GeForce RTX 5070 Ti and the 5060 Ti 16GB, which offer affordable 12GB plus VRAM. The cutback comes as data centers consume much of the available memory, squeezing the consumer market. While Nvidia is attempting to avoid price hikes, reduced supply could lead to higher retail prices as partners seek higher margins. Additionally, the production reduction may be part of a strategy to prepare for a possible RTX 50 Super refresh, rumoured to be delayed due to shortages of the GDDR7 memory. The memory crunch and Nvidia's supply constraints could hinder the PC and gaming markets, particularly for those looking to upgrade their systems. Joining us once again is Dr. Satoru Nagao. What more can you tell us about this situation, Dr. Nagao?
Indeed, this high level of the high level of the chips is very important, not only for the business but also the supply to the many products in the world. Because high level chips is indeed leading tips in the new technology in the world market. And especially currently between the US and China, that they are dealing with China's layers and the US's high level of these chips. So that's why this deal is very important. If the production itself is reducing, it will affect the prices and affect the deal between two countries, I think.
Yes, Dr. Nagao, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. It's always a pleasure to have you on the programme. We now move on, and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived in Oman on a 2-day visit to deepen bilateral ties. He was received at Muscat International Airport by Deputy Prime Minister for Defence Affairs Saeed Hibab bin Tariq Al Saeed and was accorded a ceremonial welcome. Prime Minister Modi has said that the visit will open new avenues of cooperation and add fresh momentum to India-Oman relations. During the visit, he will meet Sultan Haitham bin Tariq and hold trade talks and strategic cooperation. India and Oman are expected to sign the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement today. This will be Oman's first free trade deal in nearly 20 years. The visit marks 70 years of diplomatic relations between the two countries, and Prime Minister Modi is accompanied by senior ministers and officials and will also attend a business summit and meet the Indian community before concluding his 3-day nation tour. And that's all that we have time for this hour. Keep watching NewsX World for more international updates. Thank you.